Welcome to Enlightenment Epigrams, where we explore the profound wisdom of philosophy. Today, we present to you inspirational philosophy quotes that will expand your mind and provoke thought. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. Socrates. To be is to be perceived. George Berkeley. There is only one good, knowledge, and one evil, ignorance. Socrates. I think, therefore I am. René Descartes. The unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle. Knowledge which is acquired under compulsion obtains no hold on the mind. Plato. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. Buddha. He who is not a good servant will not be a good master. Plato. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Aristotle. I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think. Socrates. What we think, we become. Buddha. The only way to deal with temptation is to yield to it. Oscar Wilde. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Nothing in the world is ever completely wrong. Even a stopped clock is right twice a day. Paulo Coelho. We are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about what we pretend to be. Kurt Vonnegut. The person who reads too much and uses their brain too little will fall into lazy habits of thinking. Albert Einstein. The only thing that I know is that I know nothing. Socrates. Believe those who are seeking the truth. Doubt those who find it. André Gide. The unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates. It is better to be hated for what you are than to be loved for what you are not. André Gide. The aim of art is to represent not the outward appearance of things, but their inward significance. Aristotle. Knowledge is power. Francis Bacon. To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself. Søren Kierkegaard. The groundwork of all happiness is health. Leigh Hunt. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. Confucius. We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. Anais Nin. True knowledge exists in knowing that you know nothing. Socrates. The goal of life is living in agreement with nature. Zeno of Citium. Happiness depends upon ourselves. Aristotle. One cannot step twice in the same river. Heraclitus. We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. Oscar Wilde. The true measure of a man is how he treats someone who can do him absolutely no good. Samuel Johnson. The secret of change is to focus all your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Socrates. The only lasting beauty is the beauty of the heart. Rumi. In 3 words, I can sum up everything I've learned about life, it goes on. Robert Frost. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. Aristotle. The best way to predict your future is to create it. Peter Drucker. There is only one reality, but there are many ways that reality can be interpreted. James Randi. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Marcus Aurelius. The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about. Oscar Wilde. The greatest wealth is to live content with little. Plato. The first step toward success is taken when you refuse to be a captive of the environment in which you first find yourself. Mark Twain. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. Pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work. Aristotle. The more I read, the more I acquire, the more certain I am that I know nothing. Voltaire. A wise man speaks because he has something to say, a fool speaks because he has to say something. Plato. Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Epicurus. You have your way. I have my way. As for the right way, the correct way, and the only way, it does not exist. Friedrich Nietzsche. The greatest deception men suffer is from their own opinions. Leonardo da Vinci. The function of prayer is not to influence God, but rather to change the nature of the one who prays. Søren Kierkegaard. The pen is mightier than the sword. Edward Bulwer Lytton. Nothing that is worth knowing can be taught. Oscar Wilde. He who laughs at himself never runs out of things to laugh at. Epictetus. There is always some madness in love. But there is also always some reason in madness. Friedrich Nietzsche. Courage is the first of human qualities because it is the quality which guarantees the others. Aristotle. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Nelson Mandela. It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. J.K. Rowling. People are not disturbed by things themselves, but by their thoughts about those things. Epictetus. Even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise. Victor Hugo. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. George Santayana. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. George Bernard Shaw. The hardest thing to learn in life is which bridge to cross and which to burn. David Russell. We are all fools in love, Jane Austen. The roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet. Aristotle. There is no great genius without some touch of madness. Seneca. Liberty means responsibility. That is why most men dread it. George Bernard Shaw. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Eleanor Roosevelt. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle. Art is the lie that enables us to realize the truth. Pablo Picasso. Man is condemned to be free. Jean-Paul Sartre. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Nelson Mandela. The true sign of intelligence is not knowledge but imagination. Albert Einstein. If you want to be happy, be. Leo Tolstoy. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. Seneca. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. Steve Jobs. Your time is limited, don't waste it living someone else's life. Steve Jobs. The only thing standing between you and your goal is the story you keep telling yourself. Jordan Belfort. The secret of life, though, is to fall 7 times and to get up 8 times. Paulo Coelho. The truth is rarely pure and never simple. Oscar Wilde. Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you are doing, you will be successful. Albert Schweitzer. The greatest hazard of all, losing oneself, can occur very quietly in the world, as if it were nothing at all. Søren Kierkegaard. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. James Baldwin. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Lao Tzu. We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. Oscar Wilde. A man who doesn't. Welcome to Enlightened Echoes, 100 Greek philosophy quotes unveiled. The unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates. Know thyself. Pythagoras. Change is the only constant in life. Heraclitus. Happiness depends upon ourselves. Aristotle. Wisdom begins in wonder. Socrates. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. Socrates. It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Epictetus. Ignorance, the root and stem of all evil. Plato. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. Buddha. Virtue is harmony. Pythagoras. He who is not a good servant, will not be a good master. Plato. The greatest wealth is to live content with little. Plato. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. Socrates. The only good is knowledge and the only evil is ignorance. Socrates. Excellence is never an accident. It is always the result of high intention, sincere effort, and intelligent execution. Aristotle. The measure of a man is what he does with power. Plato. The secret of change is to focus all of your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Socrates. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. Marcus Aurelius. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle. The only thing that is constant is change. Heraclitus. To find yourself, think for yourself. Socrates. To be conscious of what we are aiming for and to have it always present to us, is to live consciously. Aristotle. The purpose of education is to lead us out of ourselves. Aristotle. The greatest wealth is to live content with little. Plato. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Seneca. The true value of a human being is determined primarily by the measure and the sense in which he has attained to liberation from the self. Albert Einstein. It is not enough to have a good mind, the main thing is to use it well. René Descartes. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. Steve Jobs. Everything existing in the universe is the fruit of chance and necessity. Democritus. He who is not a good servant, will not be a good master. Plato. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Winston Churchill. Fortune favors the bold. Virgil. Know well what leads you forward and what holds you back. Buddha. The function of man is to live, not to exist. Jack London. A wise man proportions his belief to the evidence. David Hume. The only shame is to have none. Blaise Pascal. To be what we are and to become what we are capable of becoming is the only end of life. Robert Louis Stevenson. No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. Heraclitus. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Leonardo da Vinci. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle. The key to happiness is not to have everything you want but to want everything you have. Confucius. It takes a wise man to learn from his mistakes, but an even wiser man to learn from others. Zen proverb. Wisdom begins in wonder. Socrates. The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself. Plato. Virtue is the genuine happiness of an object. William Penn. Everything in excess is opposed to nature. Hippocrates. He who knows all the answers has not been asked all the questions. Confucius. The greatest blessings of mankind are within the reach of those who cultivate the mind. Benjamin Franklin. No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. Heraclitus. To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist, that is all. Oscar Wilde. You cannot teach a man anything. You can only help him discover it within himself. Galileo Galilei. To be conscious of what we are aiming for and to have it always present to us, is to live consciously. Aristotle. The mind is not a vessel to be filled but a fire to be kindled. Plutarch. The only thing that is constant is change. Heraclitus. Nothing is impossible, the word itself says I'm possible. Audrey Hepburn. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle. Happiness depends upon ourselves. Aristotle. Nature does nothing in vain. Aristotle. The only thing I know is that I know nothing. Socrates. The measure of intelligence is the ability to change. Albert Einstein. Welcome to the Wisdom Hour, inspiring philosophy quotes for deep reflection. In a world filled with noise and distractions, it's important to take a moment to pause and ponder the deeper questions of life. Our first quote comes from the great philosopher Socrates, who once said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." In our fast-paced society, we often forget to take the time to reflect on our actions and decisions. Next, Friedrich Nietzsche reminds us, he who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. Life can be filled with challenges and hardships, but finding meaning and purpose can help us navigate through the storms. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, very little is needed to make a happy life, it is all within yourself and your way of thinking. Happiness lies not in acquiring material possessions, but in appreciating the simple joys of life. Seneca reminds us, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Success doesn't just fall into our laps, it requires effort and perseverance. Lastly, Mahatma Gandhi's words ring true, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. Socrates. The unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle. The mind is everything. What you think you become. Buddha. Change your thoughts and you change your world. Norman Vincent Peale. The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. Albert Camus. In 3 words I can sum up everything I've learned about life, it goes on. Robert Frost. You must be the change you wish to see in the world. Mahatma Gandhi. The more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. Albert Einstein. Happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions. Dalai Lama. Be yourself, everyone else is already taken. Oscar Wilde. The only thing that is constant is change. Heraclitus. The only thing I know is that I know nothing. Socrates. Life is really simple, but we insist on making it complicated. Confucius. The purpose of our lives is to be happy. Dalai Lama. Do not dwell on the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment. Buddha. I think, therefore I am. René Descartes. Know thyself. Socrates. I can't go back to yesterday because I was a different person then. Lewis Carroll. The only way out is through. Robert Frost. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. Socrates. Life isn't about finding yourself. It's about creating yourself. George Bernard Shaw. The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. Epicurus. Everything happens for a reason. Unknown. To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist, that is all. Oscar Wilde. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. Walt Disney. We are all faced with a series of great opportunities brilliantly disguised as impossible situations. Charles R. Swindoll. Wherever you go, go with all your heart. Confucius. The best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today. H. Jackson Brown Jr. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky. Believe you can and you're halfway there. Theodore Roosevelt. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Nelson Mandela. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Henry Ford. Success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill. It does not matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop. Confucius. If you want to achieve greatness, stop asking for permission. Anonymous. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Benjamin Franklin. Your time is limited, don't waste it living someone else's life. Steve Jobs. The only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. Franklin D. Roosevelt. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Thomas Edison. The only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. Ralph Waldo Emerson. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Albert Einstein. Success is going from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. Winston Churchill. Fall 7 times and stand up 8. Japanese proverb. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Eleanor Roosevelt. I attribute my success to this, I never gave or took any excuse. Florence Nightingale. When one door of happiness closes, another opens, but often we look so long at the closed door that we do not see the one which has been opened for us. Helen Keller. It is during our darkest moments that we must focus to see the light. Aristotle. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Maya Angelou. Dream big and dare to fail. Norman Vaughn. Success usually comes to those who are too busy to be looking for it. Henry David Thoreau. In the end, it's not the years in your life that count. It's the life in your years. Abraham Lincoln. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Peter Drucker. The only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. Franklin D. Roosevelt. It's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. Henry David Thoreau. You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. C.S. Lewis. You have to learn the rules of the game. And then you have to play better than anyone else. Albert Einstein. Love the life you live. Live the life you love. Bob Marley. The best revenge is massive success. Frank Sinatra. It always seems impossible until it's done. Nelson Mandela. The harder the conflict, the greater the triumph. George Washington. You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. Maya Angelou. Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever. Mahatma Gandhi. Life is about making an impact, not making an income. Kevin Cruz. The successful warrior is the average man, with laser-like focus. Bruce Lee. Imperfection is beauty, madness is genius, and it's better to be absolutely ridiculous than absolutely boring. Marilyn Monroe. The purpose of our lives is to be happy. Dalai Lama. Act as if what you do makes a difference. It does. William James. Ask and it will be given to you, search, and you will find, knock and the door will be open for you. Jesus. Anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new. Albert Einstein. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Eleanor Roosevelt.